What's up, everybody? This is your boy Chainsaw. Listen, we got a lot to cover. I wanted to jump right into it. Now, if you're as pissed off as I am, make sure you're sitting down and you got your shoes planted, because this will definitely knock your socks off. By now, everyone has heard about the leak, so we're a little late to the game on that. But I want to look at it from a little bit of a different perspective. I want to look at it from the perspective of using this potential ruling as fuel for the upcoming election cycles. Associated Press reported today, sudden abortion focus shakes midterm election landscape. And this is something that I got high hopes, but it still could go either way, based on just what we've seen today. The leaked draft of a Supreme Court abortion opinion that would overturn the landmark Roe v. Wade decision is shaking the U.S. political landscape in what has been expected to be a difficult election year for Democrats. While Democrats decry the draft, they suddenly have a clear and unifying message. The real possibility that abortion could be outlawed in dozens of states in the coming months could animate their dejected base, especially young voters, people of color, suburban women who are unhappy with the pace of progress under Democratic leadership in Washington. Republicans, meanwhile, are struggling to contain their excitement and their excrement. That's not in the article commentary. At the prospect of winning a decades-long fight, even as they suggest Democrats are exaggerating the likely real-world impact of a Roe reversal. Stop it already. The draft opinion surfaced just as the most competitive phase of the primary season was beginning, with races unfolding in Ohio and Indiana, which we have the results of the Ohio race. I didn't actually have a chance to look at the Indiana one, but in Ohio, we've got the Democratic primary candidate is Tim Ryan, and the Republican candidate
JP, right? JD Mandel.
This for sure should be interesting. While the political fallout will take months to settle, with races. This much is clear. Rarely in the modern era has a Supreme Court decision had the potential to so dramatically reshape American life and politics. I hope that women across this country are going to rise up and realize that this isn't theoretical anymore. Warren, Michigan Senator Debbie Stabenow, a Democrat. Republicans have been fighting to ban abortion since before the Supreme Court's 1973 ruling, but on Tuesday, many offered only modest estimates of the political impact of a decision eliminating the legal guarantee of the right, which, if you follow me on Twitter, tweeted about this, that, honestly, Roe v. Wade should have been the biggest cry for, the case itself should have been the rallying cry for the conservatives to treat the symptoms that would otherwise, put someone in a position to even find abortion necessary in the first place, but apparently they didn't. You would be wrong for assuming that, although it makes perfectly good sense. The draft ruling, which the court emphasized was not final, would become the law of the land only after a formal announcement, which is expected in late June, early July. Privately, GOP strategists have worried that overturning Roe ahead of the election could trigger an anti-Republican backlash. I wonder why. I mean, it makes sense to run on something like that and not get it done. Kind of like in the same way that it makes sense for Democrats to run on things like universal health care and free education and not actually get those things done. That's called marketing, folks. It's it's how you get voters, but not actually, delivering on the product, right? Because then you have to come up with a new product, and it's not something that either side is willing to let go of. I mean, it's a money churning machine. Let's not act like politics isn't. Speaking of money churners, South Carolina Senator Lindsey Graham, Republican, acknowledged that a sweeping change in the nation's abortion laws might help Democrats in November, but he suggested the election would depend more on the state of the economy than the explosive social issue. I highly doubt that. They'll have an issue to talk about. We'll have an issue to talk about. Good luck with that. Graham said of Roe being overturned, I think it will be a new issue, particularly at the state level, but I think most people, quite honestly, are not single-issue voters. Well, we'll see about that. voters in some states would be affected more than others. I mean, keep in mind, he's talking about something that has, well, what is it, like 19%? Of course, this is polled. I believe it's right at 19% of Americans are actually anti-abortion in all cases. The vast majority of Americans are not for the overturning of Roe v. Wade. And yet, here we are. 22 states in all, largely across the South, West, and Midwest, already have total or near total bans on the books. Almost all now blocked in court because of Roe. They include deep red states, elections this fall, including Idaho, Missouri, North Dakota, Utah. But they also include high-profile swing states like Pennsylvania, Arizona, Michigan, Ohio, and Wisconsin. White House advisors said Roe reversal would serve as a galvanizing force for key segments of President Joe Biden's coalition, giving Democrats a clear message to link to the midterm elections. At the same time, the advisor, who insisted on anonymity to discuss internal strategies, acknowledged that an abortion change might not be enough on its own to overcome political headwinds come November. Biden's popularity remains weak amid increasing concerns about inflation, direction of the country. History also suggests that the party that controls the White House almost always suffers losses in their first congressional elections of a new president. That's true, but they also, the opposition isn't usually pulling stunts like this on the other side right before the midterms. So this might be a special case. It very well seems like it would be. A decades-long struggle between the two sides on something that certainly affects everyone close to home. Nearly everyone close to home. Because where does it stop? I mean, I'm going to take a break for this for just a second, because and where does it stop though? I mean, and yes, you've seen the talking points from the left, and of course the rebuttals from the right on, does it stop with abortion rights? What's next? Are we going to, figure out a way to ban gay marriage? Are they going to figure out a way to ban contraceptives, interracial marriage? I mean, those seem like far-fetched, far-flung concepts, folks. But here's the thing. They were able to do this. You put enough of these whack jobs in at the local and state level, the next thing you know, they're passing legislation. I mean, my God. Did you hear about the legislation that got passed in Texas, Mississippi, that started this whole thing? And then the follow-up, bills that were, and the follow-up cases to said bills and acts in places like Texas and Oklahoma. I mean, for God's sakes, a woman in Oklahoma had a miscarriage and was convicted of manslaughter by a jury of her peers. Stop it now. Come on. And we're going to talk a little bit about this. I don't want to spoil it for anybody who, hasn't been following the news here, but, we've got one state rep, my home state of Missouri, this expletive, who had sponsored a bill, HB 2810, that included specific language, referencing ectopic pregnancies. It's a Class A felony, folks. Ectopic pregnancy, you're getting 30 years in prison, or die. It's and this is what we can look forward to. So in one ominous sign, grassroots Democratic fundraising, usually a mark of enthusiasm, was noticeably sluggish in the hours after the draft decision was leaked. Democratic fundraising platform Act Blue drew less than $3 million in donations between 6:30 a.m. 1 p.m. On Tuesday. By contrast, the platform took in $71 million in 24 hours after the former Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg's death. As Democratic officials across the nation tried to sound the alarm, Republicans were quietly confident. And you'll see that these folks are literally more concerned with the leak than they are. You think that they'd be celebrating the ruling, but yeah, that's the thing. There are now three things in life you can count on: death, taxes, and Dems overplaying any hand, said Republican strategist Chris Wilson, who's involved in several top elections this year. He noted that Democrats in states like New York, California wouldn't be affected by abortion bans in Republican-led states, and yeah, this is true. For most Democrats, Wilson said life goes on as usual. But there's several swing states with Republican controlled legislatures where November elections for governor may ultimately decide a woman's right to abortion. Georgia, North Carolina, Arizona, Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Michigan among them. Even in states unlikely to outlaw abortions in short term, Democrats are hopeful that a renewed focus on the issue will help their candidates overcome the party's other political challenges. And that's a very real thing. Like I say, in my home state, these folks are off the rails. Just next door, this is put out yesterday by AP. Oklahoma governor signs Texas-style ban on most abortions. Oklahoma City AP Governor Kevin Stitt signed a Texas-style abortion ban on Tuesday that prohibits abortions after 6 weeks of pregnancy. About the time you're going to find out that you're pregnant, right? Part of a nationwide push, GOP that want Oklahoma to be the most pro-life state in the country, Stitt tweeted after signing the bill. Because, these guys are all about their Twitter. Which, you can find me on Twitter at Chainsaw CCC, so definitely check me out. Stitt signing the bill comes on the heels of a leaked draft opinion from the nation's high court that is considering weakening or overturning the landmark Roe v. Wade decision that legalized abortion nearly 50 years ago. The bill signed takes effect immediately with his signature, and the Oklahoma Supreme Court on Tuesday denied an emergency request to temporarily halt the bill. Cool. Imagine that. Abortion providers say now that the new law is in effect, they immediately will stop providing services for women after 6 weeks of pregnancy. So, as soon as you find out, while the law is in effect, which it now is because the governor signed it, abortion services after 6 weeks will be largely unavailable, said Rabia Mukadam, staff attorney for the New York-based Center for Reproductive Rights, which is representing Oklahoma's abortion providers in the case. It's a short-term loss, but we're hoping that the Oklahoma Supreme Court will grant us relief. The new law prohibits abortions once cardiac activity can be detected in an embryo, which experts say is roughly 6 weeks into a pregnancy before many women know they're pregnant. Similar bill in Texas last year led to a dramatic reduction in the number of abortions performed in that state, with many women going to Oklahoma and other surrounding states for the procedure. Now, they used to call this the heartbeat bill, but they don't call it that no more because, it's not a heartbeat. It's cardiac activity. It's electrical activity found in the formation of the heart. I guess that's a matter of opinion. Apparently, science is a matter of opinion to these folks. Dr. Ayman Al-Sadin, the medical director of Planned Parenthood Great Plains, said Texas law that took effect in September has given their employees an idea of what a post-Roe country might look like. Since that day, my colleagues and I have regularly treated patients who were fleeing their communities to seek care. Al-Sadin said they're taking time off work, taking time out of school, taking time away from their family responsibilities to get that care until September 2021. They were able to get safely and readily in their communities. The bill authorizes abortions that performed as a result of a medical emergency, but there are no exceptions if the pregnancy is the result of rape or incest. Because, the South, they're big into that. I don't say that facetiously. I'm just saying, like in a lot of these red states, a 12-year-old can, by these kinds of laws, be forced to give birth. You can, get married, own a firearm, and, if Governor Mike Parson had his way, though even younger could go to adult prison for committing certain felonies. So, I guess this would be one, since they're trying to make it a Class A felony in Missouri. So I guess if the 12-year-old, has an ectopic pregnancy, well, we'll get into that. Per some of these piece of legislation, they put them in adult prison for that, for 30 years. It's big stuff. Big stuff in the South. Big stuff in these red states. Like the Texas law, the Oklahoma bill would allow private citizens to sue abortion providers or anyone who helps a woman obtain an abortion for up to $10,000. The whole point of Roe v. Wade was to, prevent state governments from getting between, a woman and her doctor. Now we're going to let just Joe Blow get in between a woman and her doctor. And the state governments are going to back this. After U.S. Supreme Court allowed the mechanism to remain in place, other Republican-led states sought to copy Texas's ban. Idaho governor signed the first copycat measure in March, although it's been temporarily blocked by the state Supreme Court. Earlier this year, signed a bill to make performing an abortion a felony crime in Oklahoma, but that measure is not set to take effect until this summer. Legal experts say it's likely to be blocked because the Roe v. Wade decision still remains the law of the land. The number of abortions performed each year in Oklahoma which has 4 abortion clinics, has declined steadily over the last 2 decades, from more than 6,200 in 2002 to slightly over 3,700 in 2020. The fewest in more than 20 years, according to the data from the Oklahoma State Department of Health. 2020, before the Texas law was passed, about 9% of the abortions performed in Oklahoma were women from Texas. So imagine that. Before the Texas ban took effect September 1st, about 40 women from Texas had abortions performed in Oklahoma each month. The data shows that number jumped to 222 women from Texas in September and 243 in October. And boy, and this is what we will find in the coming months, especially if this decision. And this is what we will find in the coming months, especially if this becomes the decision of the Supreme Court. States across the country that are already putting these, passing similar bills, Oklahoma. I mean, we want to make it the most pro-life state, right? Well, there's nothing more pro-life, I guess, than passing legislation and having it signed into law that says that tubal pregnancies, treatment of a tubal pregnancy, which will always kill the patient, is a Class A felony with a 30-year prison sentence. It doesn't get any more pro-life than that. If day trading is too stressful or you just don't want to deal with the volatility of the market, M1 Finance has got you covered. This easy-to-use trading platform basically lets you build your own index fund out of companies that you believe in. And if you use my link at chainsawccc.com/M1, M1 Finance will give you a free $30 just for signing up and funding your M1 account. Get started today. chainsawccc.com/M1. $30 is waiting for you, bro. And without further ado, here's Ben Shapiro.
Tim Ryan in Ohio did the same thing. He says overturning Roe versus Wade would be absolutely wrong, not to mention catastrophic for Ohio, where Republicans have passed one extreme and dangerous proposal after another to ban abortion before most people even know they're pregnant. I mean, ladies, find you a man who loves you like Democrats love the murder of the unborn.
Here's the thing to consider when we're talking about Ohio. Now, that's actually where a lot of this nightmare started. What was that? In 2019. I believe it was NPR, the local NPR, WOSU. Pull that up. Lawmaker says he didn't research ectopic pregnancy procedure before adding it to the bill. An Ohio lawmaker who proposed, and this is from 2019, folks, an Ohio lawmaker who proposed legislation extending insurance coverage to a procedure considered medically impossible as a way of fighting abortion worked closely on the bill with conservative lobbyists, according to newly released emails. State Representative John Becker, a Southwest Ohio Republican, got help from Barry Sheets, a lobbyist for the Right to Life Action Coalition of Ohio, as he crafted a measure that's since drawn international scrutiny. The questionable medical grounding. The bill prohibits insurers from covering abortion services, but provides an exception for a procedure intended to reimplant an ectopic pregnancy in a woman's uterus. Okay? Ohio. They wanted to, they wanted to make it to where insurance would not cover the abortion, which if you're okay, keep in mind, this is for all you guys out there. All right, you know who you are. If you don't know what an ectopic pregnancy is, Google it, okay? Tubal pregnancies are fatal. They will kill the patient. They end up resulting in ruptures and internal bleeding, and the patient eventually will die without treatment. They wanted to have this available for insurance to cover the treatment, so long as they were able to reinsert the fetus into the... Oh my God, you gotta be kidding me. I mean, this is intended to reimplant an ectopic pregnancy in a woman's uterus. Are you kidding me? And that's in 2019. 2019. Okay, this is before COVID. This was the brilliant idea of the Republican legislation, the Republican legislators in the great state of Ohio. You know, that one, where they got that at. They figured that was a good idea. The Cincinnati Enquirer actually broke the story. So yeah, so that's fun. And again, that's I mean, let's pull that back just a little bit there.
Seriously, I mean, they love it. Before most people even know they're pregnant. I mean, ladies, find you a man who loves you like Democrats love the murder of the unborn. Seriously, I mean, they love it. They love it.
The murder of the unborn. I want to just take it. Come on. And wow. This is the problem. This is the propaganda. Here you go.
Abortion is still going to be legal in blue states. This is a state issue. By the way, contraception is widely available and cheap. But
for now,
these people, they want abortion so bad. Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes, candidate for the Senate in Wisconsin, also said, quote, "It has never been more clear why we need to abolish the filibuster and take immediate action to protect every person's right to make decisions about their own bodies, except for the child in the womb who makes no decision, simply has their brains sucked into a sink."
Wisconsin, you say? All right. Well, let's take a look at Wisconsin. And again, this was published. Oh my God! Wait a minute. This was published yesterday. My bad. This is from Fox 5, Milwaukee. Abortion a felony under Wisconsin law from 1849. So yeah, if Roe v. Wade gets overturned, Wisconsin defaults to a law that was passed before, really? Abortion a felony under Wisconsin law from 1849. America's abortion precedent is on the brink of shattering. That would leave Wisconsin with a 19th century abortion law. My God, you gotta be kidding me. Wisconsin still has a law in the books from 1849. It would treat abortion as a felony and apply it to abortion providers, not the mother. Oh, well, that's interesting. Wisconsin law offers an exception. If two doctors deem the abortion necessary to save the life of the mother, it's likely people would challenge that old Wisconsin law in state courts. Wow. You can read it yourself. That's something. So there's Ben Shapiro defending defaulting to a law that predates the Civil War in the great state of Wisconsin. Yo, stop it already.
So, yes, all of that is wonderful. Hillary Clinton, of course, jumped in and sounded off. She tweeted, "Not surprising, but still outrageous. This decision is a direct assault on the dignity, rights, and lives of women." You want an assault, a direct assault on a life? That's what abortion is. Dignity has nothing to do with it when you kill your preborn child. That is not if your dignity is preserved by the killing of your preborn child, let me just suggest that has nothing to do with dignity.
All right, Ben Shapiro. So now if you're wondering why I brought up ectopic pregnancy earlier, of course, not just for the Ben Shapiro reference, but it seems like Ohio's most ridiculous legislation always seems to trickle its way down to the great state of Missouri here. In our infinite wisdom, we always seem to pick up Ohio's follies, or at least adopt something close to Ohio's follies. And this issue is no different. Representative Brian Seitz from the great state of Missouri, state rep from Branson, actually, Branson, Missouri. You all know about Branson, don't you? He had sponsored House Bill 2810, which originally included, now this is in 2022, folks. I believe this bill was written, when was that? Was that first put together in February? That's what I thought. February 28th. February 28th, 2022 was when this was put together. February 28th, 2022. This was sponsored by Representative Brian Seitz, which makes abortion, of course, a Class A felony, and it includes this language, which for those of you who are catching the audio, I'll read for you. The abortion was performed or induced or was attempted to be performed or induced on a woman who has an ectopic pregnancy. This bill included this language that would have made it a Class A felony, punishable by up to 30 years of prison. In 2022, 2022. Now, this is 3 years after the garbage in Ohio was considered a folly. And of course, you know, since then, the state house has had a chance to remove that language from the bill, but hasn't included language that would specifically nullify the inclusion of ectopic pregnancies in this. So it makes one wonder, why in the hell was this included in the bill in the first place? And I think we all know the answer to that. So, should give you a lot to think about. Listen, I want to hear from you. Feel free to leave a comment or reach out to me on Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook. Leave a comment. I'd love to hear your opinion on this. We're going to take a quick break, jump right back into it. Webull is the stock app and trading platform that everybody's using, and I mean everybody's using. You've seen it all over YouTube. I use it on my own channel to show what's happening in the market. You pay 0 commission fees. You can own fractional shares. You can even trade in cryptocurrencies and access real-time market data. Use my referral link, chainsawccc.com/Webull. That's chainsawccc.com/Webull, Webull, and get you 2 free stocks. Simply by opening an account and depositing any amount, get you 2 free stocks from Webull. Believe me, you're going to want this one. But look, if you're one of these lefties, you know, say from one of these red states in the South, and you don't care for this type of legislation, you don't appreciate how the big government Republicans in your state are trying to legislate specifically targeting your uterus, the right does have a solution for you, and that solution is get out. This is somewhat akin to the whole, go back to where you came from, but in this case, it's more, go somewhere else because we just don't want you. That's the solution, and that's the solution given by Fox News's Jackie DeAngelis. Let's take a look here.
Listen, there are plenty of Republicans that live in blue states that deal with the decisions that those around them make and the officials that are elected. So tax and spend and soft on crime and all of these things. Those Republicans have a choice. Many of them have left and gone to red states because they feel that they're more aligned with their policies and their morals and their values. If somebody is living in a state that wants to put a little bit more of a restriction, this is not an opinion, by the way, that is going to undo abortion in this country. States may put some more restrictions on it, but people have the right to leave. They can go live somewhere else where it's more of a free-for-all and they can do whatever they want. Again, this should be about people. It should be about your peers. It should be about
One more time. How did she put that there?
Living in a state that wants to put a little bit more of a restriction. This is not an opinion, by the way, that is going to undo abortion in this country. States may put some more restrictions on it.
This isn't going to undo abortion. States will put restrictions on it. Again, we were just talking about legislation that makes reference to ectopic pregnancy. The restriction that they're putting is that so the solution from the right is if you're pregnant, you have an ectopic pregnancy, you can either die, because that's the solution here. So, so the guys who don't know what it is, if you haven't Googled it yet, that's the result. Ectopic pregnancy, doesn't get treatment, internal bleeding, death. Period. Death. Or, in some cases, 30 years of imprisonment. And if you don't like that, you can move. You can just pack up your things and move. If you're coming from the swamps of Alabama, well, good news. You can move off to sunny California because that's economically possible in this day and age, right? Now, they've literally trapped folks in this situation and then offer a solution that is light years from reality. I can't even believe, I never want to hear Jackie DeAngelis talk about inflation or the economy ever. Like, never. As she mentions gas prices, my ears will start oozing the same type of goo that comes out of Missouri State Representative Brian Seitz' ears whenever he sees himself in the mirror in the mornings. Okay. Wow. Just mush. I feel dumber just listening to this. And I know I'm going to catch a whole bunch of hell from a certain crowd for even saying this, but you know what? I'm going to say it anyway. Jackie DeAngelis, people like this, it's disgusting. It's absolutely disgusting to hear, but I think it's even more disgusting that this is coming, that this idea on this topic, on this issue, is coming from a woman. There, I said it. I'm sorry. I'm not sorry. If you don't like it, I don't know. I mean, it's real. You all remember Candace Owens making reference to George Floyd? I mean, this is the equivalent to that for the pro-life crowd. Okay, so look, it just makes it even more disgusting that this is someone who potentially could be affected by this, but of course, if the event ever arises, I'm sure that the option is going to be available because economically that choice will still be there for folks like Jackie DeAngelis. And look, if you don't like the fact that a straight Asian man has this opinion, I don't know, maybe you part of the problem. Here we are in 2022 and they're talking about this stuff. And it's going the way it's going, folks. So listen, as I mentioned earlier, this could be a very good thing for Democrats, but y'all got to get your priorities straight. Some issues are worth fighting for, and some are just trash. And we're going to get into that a little bit later also, but I did want to continue on this topic. So Peter Doocy, just and this is something that you'll see. I've got a few examples here. Republicans seem to be more worried about the leak than they are worried about the actual, not even taking time to revel in the success of the conservative push for anti-abortion legislation and the overturning of Roe v. Wade. I mean, they've quite literally been pushing for this since before I was born, and maybe some of them, probably I'd say a good decent chunk of my viewers here. And yet, instead of reveling in the success, getting what you want and finally being able to overcome liberalism, and socialism, and communism, and all that, they are taking more time to discuss the leak. Fox's Peter Doocy asked Jen Psaki, what's up with that, bro?
Why did you guys say anything about the leaked draft memo at the Supreme Court?
How do you mean?
Well, in the past, you have declined to comment on leaked materials, so why now?
Well, Peter, I think as you would note and was reported, the Supreme Court confirmed this document was accurate, even if it is not the final opinion.
The President had a statement out before they confirmed that it was real. So,
and in that
changed?
statement, he made clear, we don't know if this is accurate. We don't know if this document is accurate or the leak is accurate.
And to follow up on a question earlier, does the President think the leaker should be punished?
Again, that's up for the Department of Justice and others to determine. What our focus is on is not getting our distracted or our eye off the ball of what is most important to people across the country here, which is not the leak and the story of the leak. It is the fact that women's health care is at risk for millions of people across this country.
Why don't you guys say anything?
All right, so that's Don Jr. And again, this is I pulled this, obviously pulled this from Twitter, so this has not been sped up. This is the real video in real time. I kid you not.
Guys, you saw the leak from the Supreme Court, an unprecedented thing. This kind of stuff doesn't happen.
This guy has literally had more coffee than in apparently the short span of a few hours than I would probably drink in a week. So kudos to him for that.
Supreme Court, an unprecedented thing. This kind of stuff doesn't happen. I don't know that I'm ever aware of a leak. This is not like Congress where everything leaks. And trust me, I've done enough testimony. Things are leaking during closed door hearings. I get it. The Supreme Court doesn't have leaks. So if there's not a thorough criminal investigation into who leaked privileged documents about a draft decision from the United States Supreme Court, where a small, tiny handful of people have access to it, then we live in a clown show state. We live in a clown show state, folks. For perspective, the FBI sent, I believe it was 15 people to investigate a garage pull. Remember that, the NASCAR Bubba Wallace thing? And thought it was a noose. Well, it's a garage pull. Like, basically on every garage of every NASCAR track that anyone's ever been at. Didn't matter. 15 people. And if they don't send people to investigate this, then again, we live in a clown show.
Way too much coffee. I mean, what is that? Is every president's son have a coke problem? I'm just, hey, just don't hate the messenger. Just point out the obvious. And Ben Shapiro with his final thoughts.
Whoever leaked this decision should be prosecuted to the fullest extent of the law, because it is a fulsome attempt to undermine the rule of law by leveraging threats and imprecations against sitting Supreme Court justices.
Of course it is. And why not, right? Marsha Blackburn, senator from Tennessee.
Someone who is a clerk or working for an associate justice has carried out, it's an attack on the court, it is an attack on Justice Alito, and this has never happened before, Brian. And what you have is someone who's trying to micromanage an outcome, push an outcome, and whether this is an individual from the left or the right, what they did is wrong, and they have to be held to account to the full extent allowable. Someone who is a clerk.
Boy, I feel like going from Don Jr. to Ben Shapiro. That's kind of quite the come down, isn't it? From Don Jr. to Ben Shapiro to Marsha Blackburn. That's literally the come down there. I'm sure that's probably exactly how Don Jr. feels right now. Listen, is that addiction? Is that what that looks like? I'm just saying. Wow, like if that's not cocaine, I don't know what is, folks. But that's just speculation. I cannot assume too much without any sort of evidence. Lastly, the recount caught Governor DeSantis with his 10 words or less.
And I think it was, really an attack on a lot of the justices. I think it was an intentional thing to try to whip up a lot of the public, to try to make it very political, potentially try to bully them into changing one of their positions, and that is not something that's appropriate for the judicial branch. And so I know they launched an investigation. They need to figure out who did that, and they need to hold them accountable, because that's a real significant breach of trust. You want to talk about an insurrection, that's a judicial insurrection to be taking that out and trying to kneecap a potential majority through kind of extra constitutional means. And so I was really surprised to see that. But so we'll see what.
A breach of trust, he says. Insurrection? Bro, are you freaking kidding me right now? Like, this guy? The chases Disney princesses guy? Come on. So that's the Republican talking point, is that, look, if you don't like it, you can get out. Don't let the door hit you where the Republicans trying to legislate you. And the leak is a coup attempt. Clearly, it's bigger than the Republican coup. It's the leak is bigger than January 6th, according to Republicans, according to Ron DeSantis, at least, and Cocaine Jr. This is really concerned about that as well. But listen, let me know what you think. Catch me in the comments. Hit me up on social. Of course, you wanna definitely follow me on Twitter. It's at ChainsawCCC. I would love to hear your opinions on this. We'll take a quick break and jump right back into it. I got a couple more things for you. If day trading is too stressful or you just don't want to deal with the volatility of the market, M1 Finance has got you covered. This easy-to-use trading platform basically lets you build your own index fund out of companies that you believe in. And if you use my link at chainsawccc.com/M1, M1 Finance will give you a free $30 just for signing up and funding your M1 account. Get started today. chainsawccc.com/M1. $30 is waiting for you, bro. So when I got this, it was breaking news. By the time of filming, it's a couple hours old. By the time of broadcast, it'll probably be a few more hours old, but that's okay. It'll probably, it might have already been covered on some other outlets, but that's fine because I like to think that we have a little bit of a different opinion about such matters here. We can look at this, and the only reason we don't usually cover entertainment news, but I like to think of this as like kind of a part B or like a part B and a half to something that we previously covered. Now, when we'd first seen the slap heard across the world, and I know this folks are just going to be, their socks are already flying off, right? But bear with me here. Bear with me. When we first seen the slap heard around the world, I thought that, didn't want to cover it. Wasn't really something that appealed to me so much, but I thought it was strange, the reactions that I saw from the right, specifically from the reactionary right. They defended Will Smith because he was defending his lady, and I expected that from the right wing. What I didn't expect is the same opinions and attitudes from the left on social media in defense of Will Smith for defending his lady's honor and assaulting Chris Rock. Listen, and again, I covered this previously, and I spoke about this. Speaking as someone who in the last 365 days was defending their lady's honor, right? That would be me. That would be this guy, okay? Conversation went sour. And by defending my lady's honor, what I really mean is that I said to the other person, hey, what you said wasn't exactly that appropriate. And this yeah, use your own combination of nouns there. The response to my defending my lady's honor by saying what you said was uncalled for and inappropriate, this person decided that it was a good idea to come up and punch me in the face a bunch of times. So, speaking from someone who has the experience of both sides, if you defended Will Smith, I get why that might have been your first reaction, but if you still think that what he did is okay, you're wrong. Hitting people is not okay. It's just not. I don't think that I should have to explain this to a bunch of grown adults, some of whom are older than me. If you are a leftist and are, advocate against nonviolence, or, you don't like violence or whatever, and you defend Will Smith and what he did, you're wrong and you're a hypocrite and you should probably just sit down and shut up and get off your high horse. I'm just saying, I don't know when the last time you got punched in the face was for doing exactly what Will Smith did, but the shoe was on the other foot, and, so I guess technically the shoe was on the same foot, but either way, I mentioned before, and I covered this, you're wrong and you're a hypocrite and you should probably just, sit down and shut up. But when I did cover that, it was because of the weird social media responses that I'd seen, and, non-reactionaries had the similar response to me. They're what Chris Rock said was uncalled for, or what Chris Rock said wasn't uncalled for. I saw a lot of both, from the left, but either way, like normal people, we're on the same page when it comes to like hitting people because your feelings hurt is not a good thing. Especially keeping in mind that we are talking about millionaire celebrities who went to a show. I mean, they showed up, dressed up, went there specifically knowing that this is only how this has been happening for decades. This show's been going on longer than most of you have been alive, and that's just kind of how it goes down. Like, you know, I don't know. There's really no defense of that kind of stupidity, right? But then something that I was surprised and yet wasn't surprised about, and again, another comedian who has been saying some very tasteless and stupid things, apparently also got assaulted recently. AP covered, Dave Chappelle tackled during comedy show, police arrest man. Comedian Dave Chappelle was tackled during a performance at Hollywood Bowl Tuesday night, and a man was later arrested. Security guard, we won't play the video because some of these platforms, we've already had some problems with one of the ads that we put up because we used a guy who, some of these platforms don't really care for. We'll discuss that in a second. So we don't have the video. I'm sure you can Google it. Security guards chased and overpowered the attacker. Chappelle was able to continue his performance while the man was taken away in an ambulance. The assailant was carrying a replica handgun with a large blade that folded out similar to a pocket knife. According to a video released by police, Isaiah Lee, 23, was detained and arrested for assault with a deadly weapon, said Officer Alba Mendez, a Los Angeles Police Department spokesperson. Lee was treated by medical staff for an unspecified injury and was booked into jail early Wednesday and held in lieu of a $30,000 bail, Mendez said. It was not immediately known if he had retained a lawyer. Mendez said a famous comedian was performing when Lee jumped onto the stage and tackled the celebrity, produced a replica handgun containing a knife blade. Mendez said the department did not name the celebrity because it does not confirm victims' names. Chappelle was performing his stand-up routine in the last 4 nights at the amphitheater as part of his Netflix is a Joke festival when the man rushed on stage and tackled him. Jamie Foxx was in the wings of the stage, and Chappelle thanked him for responding to the attack. Whoa. Didn't actually catch that in the video. Chris Rock was there. He grabbed the mic and jokingly asked, was that Will Smith? Now, look, I am not a fan of some of the things that Will Smith has been saying, and we've covered, well, we haven't covered that, but, I'm sure by now, if you've been watching the show for, any number of days now, you've already heard me talk trash about Team Turf and homophobes. That's how I got into some hot water already with some of these reactionaries who support J.K. Rowling and Team Turf on the left, which is just also really weird to me. But yeah, I mean, just because what comes out of Dave Chappelle's mouth is trash, the same thing with Chris Rock. If you think that what comes out of his mouth is trash, doesn't mean that anybody has the right to jump on stage and assault the guy. Like, say again, I don't know how many times it can be said. Hitting people, assault is not the answer ever. It isn't. It's a good answer in defense of assault. Hitting people, it's a great answer when somebody is physically attacking you or physically attacking someone else. If you're defending another person's life or limb, yeah, physical assault is definitely the answer. If you're defending someone's feelings, look, you're wrong. And if you're a leftist and you claim to be nonviolent, then that makes you wrong and a hypocrite. But, that's okay. I have a feeling that this probably isn't the first time that you've been wrong. So now might be a good time to jump off of that high horse. Look, we're all adults here, or at least we claim to be. And, again, Japanese American, second generation to come from the empire. I mean, Japanese people stopped attacking folks for our feelings being hurt back in 45. Might be a good time for everyone else to go ahead and, adapt to that, since some of us have just reinvigorated that goofy spirit. Again, I expect this sort of garbage from the right. I do not expect this from the left. And I definitely do not expect this sort of thing from people belonging to groups that otherwise have been the victims of violence systemically. you know, grow up. There's a better way. But hey, that's between you and the Lord, I guess. But look, that's our show. Leave me a message in the comments. Feel free to follow me on social media. I cannot wait to see what anyone has to say about this. And look, if you're not a subscriber to the show already, feel free and subscribe on YouTube. I need all the subscribers I can get. By the way, did also want to mention that I had a really awesome ad that I'd put out just a couple of, what was that, last week. Worked on this thing, had the team going, pulling clips from some things, but we used voice samples from the guy who, you know, he's no longer on YouTube anymore, and he's no longer on a lot of social media that normal people use. You remember that guy? He got sued recently and had to file bankruptcy. You know, he's the one who's always talking about globalists. We used voice samples of him for the ad in a satirical fashion, and yeah, that video got pulled on certain platforms, YouTube, because it went against the community guidelines, because, you know, I mean, that he was kicked from the platform for spreading disinformation and crazy things. So it's understandable that you know, the algorithm, of course, would see his name, catch his voice, and be like, oh my God, they're sharing this guy's stuff, you know. And was satirical. Basically, it was making reference to our Patreon, which we now have a Patreon, so you can support independent media for as low as $3 a month by going to patreon.com/chainsawccc. You know, and show your support there, because on this channel we do talk about things, or at least give opinions on topics, and in some cases discuss topics that you will not find anywhere else on, of course, the cable news channels, and, you know, in some cases not on other independent media. So feel free and support the show, support independent media for as low as $3 a month. It's a great deal. That's less than a caramel latte, right? Or a pack of smokes if you're in Kentucky. But yeah, so we had the ad pulled, and so we're going to be very careful about some of the things that we discuss and the names that we use, and apparently the voice samples that we talk about in the future. But that's our show. Again, subscribe to the YouTube channel, support independent media. You can support us on Patreon for as little as $3 a month, patreon.com/chainsawccc, and we'll catch you on the flippity fling flong. Rock and roll.